Welcome to the Perspective Podcast, where we embrace open dialogue from different perspectives about entrepreneurship, relationships, and education.
And this open dialogue is needed, especially today, as we live in a Twitter finger society where everyone seems to care more about getting their point across than they are about hearing the other person's perspective.
If you're ready to grow your business, your relationships, and your personal development, stick with us here at the Perspective Podcast, because sometimes in life, to get to the next level, you just need a different perspective.
If I look like what I've been through, I'd be roadkill. Tell me off of the pavement, I'm reaching from the...
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Perspective Podcast. I'm your host, Mouzon. Got T here with me. What's up, T?
What's going on, family?
Hope everybody's doing well out there. Hey, we're excited to be back another week, getting a chance to share some more of our perspective.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason why we're doing this and the reason why we continue to grow this podcast and share with you our thoughts is because we know that everyone has a different perspective of life, of situations, of circumstances. And if you can understand someone else's perspective, it's going to give you a leg up. It's going to give you the ability to adapt and empathize and really build better relationships and just have a clearer thought of life. So we want to make sure that we are sharing our perspective with you, but we want to hear your perspective as well. That's why we talk on these topics. So again, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. Do me a favor, right? Throw this thumbs up if you're watching this on video. Now that season 3 is video.
Get to see our pretty faces.
That's right. You get to finally see our faces, not just hear our voices. But yeah, do what you can. Share this with a friend. Leave a comment, because we want to make sure that you are checking in and we are getting to hear your perspective as well. So for this week, guys, we got another exciting topic. This one, it's funny because T and I just, this is how we start to figure this thing out. Him and I, we just have the conversation. We might have some topics that we think about over the week, like, hey, maybe we should talk about this. But today, we were just like, 10 minutes before recording this, let's figure this out. Hey, matter of fact, let's talk about this. So yes. It just popped up. Today's conversation and the perspective that we're talking about today is on sports betting.
Oh, yeah.
Sports betting.
Perfect day, too. Perfect time.
We're actually recording this. We're recording this on Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
Not sure when you're going to hear this, but we're recording it Super Bowl Sunday. So it made sense when we're having this conversation. Like I said, before us just popping onto the recording, T and I are looking at, hey, what's your predictions for tonight? And that's
Patrick, my homeboy. Let's go.
We'll see. Like, again, we don't know when we're going to hear this, but we'll see if that's going to be the right prediction or not.
Put it on camera right now. Patrick, my homeboy.
We shall see. But either way, we know this world of sports betting has gotten increasingly bigger, probably over the past, 4 or 5 years, maybe?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, easy, man.
Easy 4 or 5 years, it's gotten big. And we have different perspectives on it, right? Is this just gambling? Is this a viable come up for people? Like, what's people's mindset when it comes to sports betting? I know I don't do much of it, but T, give me your perspective, man. Like, let's start with like some origin stuff. Like, how did sports betting get on your radar? How long ago have you dabbled in? Like, talk to me about it.
Yeah, man, honestly, it started at work. And it wasn't that, because I don't like gambling, right? So I just put that on the record. I hate gambling. I thought I was a great gambler once. I played roulette on a cruise ship, and I hit a number, and I didn't even know I won. And all I remember was I'm just sitting there and I'm having a drink and chilling. And next thing you know, like, they start pushing money my way. And I'm like, and then I was like, oh, I got all this extra money. And I played like one more time. And then I got out, took my money and ran. And then the people were mad because they were like, really? Like, you leave it now? I'm like, yeah, I just won. Why would I leave? Like, they expected me to give it right back. So this whole concept of gambling, and I'll tell you this. So after that happened, just to give you just a frame up of why I don't like gambling, I was living paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. And I was on a road trip, and we stopped off, and they had this little mini casino, and I won. a little bit. And I was like, oh, first of all, I'm living paycheck to paycheck and still gambling. That's a whole nother conversation for another day,
Exactly,
right?
it is.
Right. So I saw your face like cringe, like
Because
right.
I see that all the time. So
Hey, 100%. So I just remember going in, playing, I won, and then I was like, I won again. Then I won again. And then it was like kind of one of those, like, if you keep betting what you won, which means you never take the money out, it keeps bouncing up, growing. And so I got all the way to the end, and it was one of these like little games where it's like, will the marble land in the right spot? It was some backwoods country gambling thing. And so the guy goes through, he's doing it, he's all his hand tricks. And then we get up and I'm putting more money down, putting more money down. And then I looked out the payout and I thought to myself, yo, that will pay the rent. Like, that's all the rent right there. I was like, I'm doing it again, whatever. I go and do it and it hits. And the guy's like, oh no, no, the rules say, and I was like, huh? And he started mixing it up. He was like, oh, actually you lost. What? Like totally like cheated us. Like totally cheated us.
Yeah.
And then one of the ladies said, yeah, I told you should have stopped when you were winning. That was working there. And I was like, what? And we weren't going to make a ruckus. We was in the back country in South Carolina. Like, we was not about to be back there, and they didn't look like me.
Can imagine.
Right? It didn't look like me. And I'm in the backwoods. And I was like, what the heck happened? And essentially we got cheated out of it, but I was gambling, right? The house always wins. Like, that's just the house always wins in the long term. So I take that framework, but then everybody starts talking about sports betting. I'm in work. I go visit a dealership. Hey, Terell, you watched the game? I'm like, yeah, I saw the game. And they're like, who'd you bet? I was like, I didn't bet. And they just kept talking. And they were like, hey, man, I get $50 if you download this app. And I was like, oh, man, what? I was like, all right, cool. I said, all right, you know what? Do they have blackjack on there and whatever? Because I like to play blackjack. I said, yeah. All right, cool. Boom. So I download the app, give my boys $50, right? I was like, whatever. Now I got the app, and now I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh, so if I bet $10, if such and such fumbles, gets up, sprints backwards, and then scores a touchdown, I win $1 million? Fantastic, right? But so I have bet a couple games because I got caught up in the mania of it all, right? I was like, I got a few dollars, I got a little play money I put aside, every time I make some money, I got a little play money, and I thought, why not? But I watch people literally go in every week, and this has become a side hustle for them.
Yeah. Like,
this is how they're trying to make an extra $500 a weekend during the NFL season. Like, legitimately, like, this is one of those situations. I mean, they're betting everything. They're betting tennis in Japan. They're betting soccer in Africa. They're betting, like, and I'm like, do you watch these games? And they're like, nah, I'm just looking at the odds. And what'll happen is somebody might be losing and it's worth a $5 bet for the other guy to come back and win, or the other girl to come back and win. And that's the reality of what we've gotten.
It's a real life. It's a real lifestyle now, and very similar. And this is what you and I were saying, like, even before we started this conversation, how this goes into even a bigger mindset, right? Yeah. We might be talking about sports betting, but people do the same thing with the stock market. People do the same thing with, lottery in general. People do the same thing, right, with all these types of things where it becomes something where they're like, well, I figured out how I could potentially make money. It might not be the most sustainable, but if I keep doing this because I've seen myself do it, well, I can make it again. And that's the crazy part about gambling in general, right? And there's where we kind of have to balance these conversations. There's some people that bet on sports because they understand sports. Like, they literally watch sports all day long. Like, they like, that's literally, like, some people literally watch football all day. People that play, like, fantasy football and really dive in, like, the players, what someone's gonna do. So therefore putting some money on it to be like, all right, this kind of backs my knowledge or my expertise.
Yeah, my theory. This is my theory. Like, this is the probability based on this setup. This is the probability of what I believe can happen. That's it.
Exactly. But
that's not most people.
That's not most people, right? Most people are just putting money down because they feel like they can make more money on it, right? And so I'm like you, T. Like, I hate gambling, partly because obviously what I do in business, being in financial services, but really targeting in that middle income area, the people that do live paycheck to paycheck or might have a little bit of disposable income, but really are just gambling it away and not doing the smartest things with it, right? I see that happen all the time, but I don't like gambling just because it never was a thing for me. Like if I think back to what I've gambled on, man, maybe the first time I went to Vegas, sat at a blackjack table, I was probably 24, 25, 26, like that. And I lost $20 in 15 seconds, like on the first. as soon as that happened, I was like, this is not
fun.
Yeah, like I'm not, like, what are y'all doing here? Like, I get it. Like, you know, you could win, but
I could have won $20 in 15 seconds.
But I just lost $20 and like that was my first initial thought. I was like, yeah, this isn't for me at all. I do not believe in losing money. I do not believe in this, like, the house always wins. I'm just gonna, like, my stroke of luck, right? Like, hey, I think I got it. It wasn't my thing. When I was working at the Cheesecake Factory, one of the only times that I actually did bet on sports outside of, you know, the Super Bowl, like squares, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Outside of squares or like something really tiny, just because you're in that work environment, which I understand, right? It just happens. Outside of that, the only time I've ever bet was the Pacquiao Mayweather fight. It was the only.
Who'd you bet on?
I bet on Mayweather.
Of course you did.
Of course I did. And I worked. What's funny is, shout out to all my kitchen staff back in the day. Like, they were all Mexicans, right? Like, love them. Great
of course
guys.
they're betting on Pacquiao.
So of course they were betting on Pacquiao. Like, it was like this pride thing. That for me was more strategy than it was like anything else. I was like, are you guys serious? Like, you really honestly believe that, like, Pacquiao could win this? And again, at that time, people were like, yeah, he could. And I was like, no, he can't. And it was one of the surest bets that I ever made. And I bet it was probably about 4 or 5 different line cooks that I bet, like, individually.
Yeah.
So, right, I think I made a few $1,000s that night on that fight. But that's like the last time that I ever really thought about, like, betting on sports.
Yeah.
Now, I know a lot of people that do, and what you're talking about, like the parlays and stuff like that, where you can really just kind of dive in and
you can stack your bets.
Exactly.
You stack your bets. Like, so for example, it's funny because that's where a lot of the people that I know, that's what they bet on, right? Like, they're trying to stack it. So for example, last week, the last weekend I was looking at a parlay where it was like it was a 2-game bet, right? So, you know, you can pick, you know, Green Bay and the Chiefs to win. And if you bet them individually, you might have won, let's say, $95. But if they both won together, you win $295, right? So you got to have both things to happen. The problem is those odds are they're so rough, even on a 2-game parlay. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I think what happens is you start to think you understand it because you win, right? Like, and that goes with like gambling in general, but you really like, oh, this team is hot. I know. You watch ESPN, you hear Max Kellerman and Stephen A. and Uncle Shay, Club Shay Shay, and you listen to Skip Bayless. You listen to all these people talk about it, right? And you're like, oh, I know, I got an opinion, and then you feel strongly about it, and then you're out there thinking that what I'm actually doing is actually strategic. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, you can win money. Like, I started learning how to play blackjack, like actually learning how to play. Yeah. And then one night on my phone, on FanDuel, because they have a casino option, right? I won like $350, right? Not a lot of money to some, but hey, $350 to sit there for an hour, have some drinks, and $350. So then, and this is after like I downloaded a fun game of, you know, blackjack, learning how to play with fake money, blah, 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 blah. And so I'm like, hey, I'm learning. I'm a pretty smart guy. I'm like, I'm figuring this out. And I'm like, yo, can I do this? Like, you know what I mean? Like, everybody's like, you know, I'm that kind of guy. I'm like, what's some ways, you know, you can make money and do some different things, add a specialized skill. Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, let's have some more fun with it. So I went a couple hours, I won $350. All right, cool. I got up the next day and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it again. That's easy money out there. Boy, I'm easy money. I'm telling you, I lost $450 in 15 minutes.
Yep.
Playing the same game, at the same casino, the whole deal. I lost the whole 350, and I put another 100 on top of it trying to catch it back up.
It's a big deal, man, because you see a lot of people. It's what happens to a lot of people. Like it's almost like that's a normal story for anybody that gambles. Like it's like that's super normal. So like my question is always like, where does our brain go? Like where does
I can tell you.
brain go? Is it because you really? Is it that lottery mentality? You've heard me say this before, but like that lottery mentality of like, you want to be wealthy, like you want to be rich, like you want to make a bunch of money. You don't want to work for it. You want to hit it and have it come to you. And that subconsciously is what everyone is going after. Do you believe that?
I think that's one. Yes, I agree. And then I also think there's the other side of folks, people like myself, that would even consider it, right? Like once you start playing around, is you think you smarter than you really are. That's the other side of it, right? Like you really think you're smarter than you really are about it. And because you've done so many things in your life where you've outsmarted it, right? Like you've worked through it or you've learned it and you went through the ups and downs. I mean, look, Michael Jordan was one of his biggest critiques when he was a player. Huge gambler. Charles Barkley is going on record for losing millions at a casino. He just bet $1 million, a fake $1 million at the Portland Trail Blazers going to win a championship. Like that's kind of like, come on, like, you know what I mean? And he literally bet $1 million for that, right? Like these guys and people are like, I dominated one area of my life. I can dominate another area. And this one is tied to a direct result. You win, you get your money. Right? Like, you know what I mean? You can take that money and immediately apply it. This isn't
do you think it's more about winning or do you think it's more about money? And I'm sure that's different for most people, right? You talk Charles Barkley, Michael Jordan.
It's winning.
About winning, right?
That's what I'm saying. The outsmarting, it's the winning. Even when I was, like I said, like I was learning how to play blackjack, right? Because I actually liked the game of blackjack. So like I was enjoying just playing like for free, right? Like, you know what I mean? But then it was like, I enjoy the game, but then I can get money and then I can take this money and here you go, son, or here you go, you know, baby, you know, wife, or so for me, it was winning. Some other people, it really is about, it's about the money. Yeah. It's the side hustle. I mean, look, I got some stats up here that I pulled up. Just in 2019 in Nevada, because that's where everybody really knows about betting, right? In Vegas. In Nevada, there was $5.3 billion bet on sports alone.
It's crazy.
Think about that for a second. Crazy. Just Nevada in 19, 5.32 billion on sports, not the other stuff.
Right.
Where people really are really are at. $5 billion in Nevada alone just on sports.
So with that, I mean that brings in, and that's just one state. Like
that's just one state.
Like now now it is opened up, right? Like now, because we were just talking about with DraftKings and FanDuel,
yes,
and all these states that are opening up legal betting. Pennsylvania is one of them, right?
Yep, like, Pennsylvania, New Jersey with Atlantic City.
Yep. So there's a bunch of them. Like, does this lead to like who's putting up that 5.3 billion? You know what I mean? Like, does this lead to corruption in the sports world? The house is always right. The house always wins. Back to the blue chips era. Back to that movie, which is one of my favorites.
You opened up a can of worms, bro. Like
because it's true. Like where one of the things that I'm learning and that we all kind of know, if you follow the money, right? You follow where the money's coming from, and you follow you'll see what's actually happening.
Yes.
$5.3 billion for the average Americans is not like. It's a bit much. So there's bigger money going into it. So does that mean that our entertainment can be tainted? Right? Does that mean?
Well, let me add to that. In the same 2019, this is the number I was looking for. New Jersey, because New Jersey is just as big in a lot of ways as betting, they raked in 2019 $4.58 billion.
You see?
So that's literally almost $10 billion in sports betting alone in two separate states. Just two states, almost 10 billion, just shy of 10 billion.
That's great. Like where is this like that? That's what I'm saying. If you follow the money, like what now what are we watching? Right? People that are diehard NFL fans, people that are diehard NBA fans or college basketball fans or whatever it is. What are we watching? Like if we know there's just with two states 2 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. Let's talk about 2 years ago, because we're in a completely different era right now.
Everybody got it right here on their phone.
Just after 2020, people
Yes.
losing their job, finding side hustles,
Yep.
that's why the stock market is crazy. That's why Robinhood is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's all. So now that 10 billion, 10 billion in 2 states is what, 40 billion now? Like,
who knows?
Now we'll take that back because, sports went away for a little bit in 2020.
Correct.
Right? Like,
yes.
they couldn't
yes.
do it. So like, we're just getting back into the swing of things when it comes to like actual sports being able to be bet on. But that being said, there's a lot of money in the system. So,
but you have it in the palm of your hand now, right? Like before, you used to have to go to the casino to put your bet in, right? Or maybe, but now it's like I can log into FanDuel. Like me, you can have this conversation. I can log into FanDuel right now, and I can bet on the Super Bowl in less than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, and that's like, you know what I mean? Like that's how quick.
But what does this lead to? Like, this can't be a good thing in betting, in gambling, in our mindset. If now we have the ability to transfer $100 into our account and then just go bet on the game, like, are we going to become a nation that's addicted to gambling and the stock market and fast, easy money?
Yeah, I think so. It's not going away. Like, first of all, like once it got in the palm of our hand, and I know a lot of people say it's in the palm of your hand, but today, that's more so true. Because yes, we can access our TD Ameritrades and all these other, platforms before, but a lot of them, you have to have a minimum balance in it at one point in time, or they were charging $7 a trade, right? Like, or you know what I mean? Like they were doing a lot of different things where it really kind of kept you out. Robinhood came along, right? I mean, I guess to not get into the both, right? But Robinhood came along and said, no, every single person should have access to trading. Right. And they do it at the fraction of the cost. Like, I mean, really a fraction of the cost. So now you got people palming your hand. I mean, I've seen Jamie Foxx at least 1,000 times in the last 2 weeks for MGM, right? Like, talking about, hey, we're the real bet kings. You know where you're supposed to bet at. You got DraftKings, you got FanDuel, you got all these different things where it literally is seconds away. It's the Amazon effect, in the way I think about it, of gambling. Right? Like one click, right? Amazon perfected that. When you go on there, one click, your payment set up, you can easily buy it quickly. You don't have to think about it. What's the same thing now? I don't have to think about it. I can literally go in, boom, one click, and it's going. I don't have to go through all these obstacles, make sure things are easy, transferable, none of that, man. It's so streamlined and it's attached to money. And that's the thing too. Like, again, I cannot get over the fact that when I was out in South Carolina in the backwoods, it was once this marble hits where it's supposed to hit, I pay my rent. Right. Like there was something about that moment that shook me for it. Like it literally shook me because it was nothing else that mattered. It was literally my rent was paid in the next 30 seconds.
I get it, man. Drake has a line. He said, I watch Michael Rubin make a million off a couple hands. Like when you can attach something that you didn't believe was possible,
like that,
to something that you can, it's that, like, I don't know, what is it, cortisol? Is it like whatever
yes.
That like gets you go is
yes, I know what you're talking about.
The excitement chemical in you, right? Like whatever that is, like that dopamine, is it dopamine or whatever it is, but that's happiness, I think. But whatever it is, that chemical, it gets you going to think like, man, the possibility, I could do this, I could make that happen. And that is
dopamine. Dopamine. I looked it up. Dopamine. Yeah.
But that's the scariest part, is because gambling and our attachment with money attaches to that dopamine level. Where you're just like, oh my gosh, it could happen. It happened. Like, let me fast forward all the way out. Again, I'm not a gambler. 2 years ago, I was in Vegas. Mm-hmm. Just, I happened to be there by myself because my wife was staying at home, so I was only there for like a couple days. And one night walking through the lot, I was like, let me hit this slot machine. Like, it just, you know what I mean? Like, I got, and did somebody front me the money? Like, somebody might have fronted me $20. I don't remember. Something. I was having a conversation with someone about it. But either way, sat at the machine, made money, like made like $100 or something from my $20. Smart enough and have enough discipline to take my money and walk away.
Yep.
The next day I came in that lobby, I felt it. Mm-hmm. I felt it. Like I felt this like, could I do it again? Like
Yeah.
that the like I didn't. I walked through, but I know that feeling. Like I'm just at a
And you're
place
not
where
a gambler.
I'm not a gambler. So I can only imagine the
Yes.
gambler's mind, the person that has hit it, the person that does. But that's why that addictive nature, like at some point, there's gonna have to be some form of either regulation, like deeper regulations on your ability to, or I can see this going way out of control.
Well, they've already made adjustments. So, for example, with FanDuel, right? Like, so I had my, of course, my bank account attached to it.
Yeah.
Well, they changed the law where you couldn't directly attach your bank account anymore. So they put a barrier there. Well, the problem is FanDuel is really smart. When you get an account, you automatically get like this other like play card account. I forget what it's called.
Mm.
And so before it was like, well, why send my money to the play card, then a play card to the casino? Like it was too much. So I just used to do my own. Well, now you have to, but they streamlined it so much. It's almost like, hey, once they see it triggering your play account, they just show it on your FanDuel account. Right? Like now I'm probably somebody's technical going to be like, well, that's not how it works. Look, that's how it feels on my side, right? All I know is I put it in the account, I put $50 in or whatever if I want to play a game, and this happens and it triggers, right? And it just goes quickly, just immediately right there, bro. So there's legislation that gets there, but at the end of the day, it's kind of this whole, like we're going through with this pandemic. How much do you want to regulate to squash when there's an industry being built off of it? Hey, Chris, that's $10 billion in 2 states off of one type of gambling.
Yeah.
Like real talk, like just one type of gambling.
That's just a lot of money. And again, my brain goes to so many different places when we think of that. Like, is this going to overtake jobs? You know how, like, with the Robinhood stuff and all the stuff that we saw that was kind of happening in the stock market, which we may have to keep talking about in a later episode. But like, people are making a living off of that. Like they're like, screw a job, like screw me working. Like I'm going to do this because
if I win 60% of my bets this weekend, I'm more than what I work, which is another conversation with why is that more than what you earn at work? But that's another conversation for
totally different conversation.
How can you come on?
But could this overtake having regular jobs? I'm talking about the people that are slightly in the demographic but under us, right? The people under 28.
Correct. Yeah.
Right? That demographic that might think they're smarter than they are, but they've proven it to themselves by making a little money doing something like this. Will they ever go to a traditional job, have a traditional business, have something that, like, do you think this is sustainable for that group of people because of what we're seeing through the pandemic and through all this stuff?
Well, that's a good question. And you know what the first thing that popped in my mind when we first started this podcast, we started talking about everybody with their side hustle, right? And how we were asking the same question. You almost asked an identical question. Hey, will people go to regular jobs when they can go do Shipt, they can go do Uber, they can go do DoorDash.
And it's kind of played out though, right? Like, people make a living off of just
people are making a right. But then where's the, like, when you're early in, of course, right? Like, you know, like, because it's not that many people and the service, there's like a sweet spot where the service grows enough where people want it more than there's work. And then you end up making a ton of money. But then you look at those same people today and they're like, man, Uber isn't as good as it used to be. I used to make $3,000 a week. Now I can barely make $1,000 a week, right? Because you're at the airport with 2,000 other people that got Uber, right?
Right.
So I think it's the same thing. I think there is I don't want to work a traditional job fighting for $8 an hour. And then when it's time for making more money, somebody's busting my chops over a quarter. And if that's the case, right, then I can go on Robinhood and now, mind you, I want to give perspective. We're talking about Robinhood for people that are not actually studying how to invest, studying how to actually make money. Like, you know what I mean? Truly understand how to do it. We're talking about people that will listen to Elon Musk and go bet on whatever, you know, go put money on whatever he said, like a meme coin or something in crypto. Okay. We're talking about those people. All right.
This is a sidebar. I was in a Clubhouse room
a
while back. And I guess, again, whenever this airs, a while back, Elon Musk came on Clubhouse one night. And that night, everyone on Clubhouse was talking about Elon Musk. But there was specific groups of people in specific rooms that were just waiting him to drop a nugget so they can go invest in something. That's literally what they were waiting on. They were like, I hope he talks about X so that I can go put money into that, or I already own that, so I know it'll go up, right?
Yes.
Like, but they were literally banking on him for investment advice, basically.
There you go. I mean, there you go, right?
Sidebar. Let's go.
It's not like, and it's not even investment advice. Like, he does it for fun at this point. Like, he goes in, he used to talk crap about Bitcoin, and he goes in and puts it Bitcoin hashtag on his thing, and Bitcoin goes up.
Yeah,
like 12%, right? It's ridiculous. So, but going back to it, I really think that some people are going to look at this and say, this is an opportunity for me to make at least what I make at work or more, and I keep my flexibility. Yeah. Right? Like, that's the state of, like, people really have like towards jobs. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I trust me, I get it. Right? They really have an towards it. And this is just another platform where I can go DoorDash during the day and on my phone gamble on the game at night and make more money. And I think that hope, until it's broken, that hope, I think could turn into, we could have a society, Chris, of what you're talking about, a bunch of independent gambling industry, you know, and that's between the two, that's how they live. And I say they, because that's not my world, right? Like, you know what I mean? But I can see that being the world when you combine the two, especially now with Robinhood, because it feels like it's not gambling, because you're doing what the big investors do. You go bet on Apple, you go bet on, you betting on Tesla. So you feel like I'm not gambling, but the way you're approaching it, or they're approaching it, it is absolutely just gambling.
I think that's the biggest point right there, T, right? Like, you're gambling with your money, but you're not justifying it as gambling. You actually think that, like, this is a smart way for you to make extra money, for you to build something on the side. Like, that's actually what you believe. And that's the mindset that I think is going to lead people down the wrong path, right? I say the same thing, right? Being in the money game and talking about stocks, like, it's one thing to be an investor, it's one thing to gamble. It's like one thing to understand what and I don't care, even if you are day trading, right? Day trading is a form of investing. Like, don't get that twisted. Like, you can, but you still have to learn. It's still a specialized knowledge.
Yes, it is.
It's more technical analysis, right? We were talking about this. It's more technical analysis than anything else. So you understanding what your candlesticks are and your bars and your like all that stuff, it's knowledge. It's not just speculative, like, I heard this, so let me put it. So
that's where it's at.
Yeah, even in day trading, there's still knowledge there. Same thing in sports betting. There's knowledge. Like, there's people that, if you understand, and this is where I started to look deeper into sports betting, was college basketball. Because, right, we played college basketball. I'm a basketball guy, but not even the NBA. I'm more of a
college guy.
College guy. So if you put me, right, if you put two teams in front of me, I have a good understanding, if I've watched them or kind of understand their makeup, I have a good understanding of kind of how they would play basketball, right? Like, kind of what strategies are, right? If you get a certain group of people that like to run, or if they're really tight, you take your Ivy League schools that are very traditionally, like, set in their sets and plays, and set good screens, and the fundamentals are down. Like, there's certain things I understand about business or about basketball that I can apply to a college basketball game and feel like I know more or can understand how to bet on that, if that makes sense.
You feel like your probability increase because of your knowledge, right?
Because your knowledge,
your foundation. Yeah. And I think that's a good place to just kind of make sure we buckle down with folks as we're thinking through this. It's like, look, like, I was one of those folks that I was in the stock market because, I felt like, hey, you know what, let me put some money away. Like, I started with my 401k, which we've talked about before. I made some adjustments. Then I realized, hey, you know what, there's some other options and different things out there. But when the pandemic did hit, I was one of those folks that, like, let me go back to my Robinhood account a little bit more. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, okay, let me
started looking for options. Like, that's just
Yeah, like, you know, when things got started getting cut short at work, and I was blessed enough to keep working and had enough, but it was still like I had enough, but you know, you want more than enough, like, you know what I mean? And so I remember, and when I first started, it was, well, what's this chat room say? What's this chat room say? What's this chat room say? Right. But then I said, you know, there's a deeper level. And luckily I had a good friend, shout out to my boy Danny, right? You know, I met him, through work. And he was like, no, he's like, bro, that's just gambling. And I was like, oh, hold up, gambling. I don't like gambling, right? So then I was like, it kind of triggered for me, like, oh crap, I'm gambling. And it was like, no, you need to learn, you need to study, you need to look. Here goes a video series of 20 hours worth of content. Don't talk to me again until you listen to all of it and go through and take notes. Here goes a book. Read this book. Don't talk to me until we do this. And then when you started really going into it and you started studying from a technical analysis standpoint, then the world opened up and you realize, holy crap, that was gambling. Because what I see today and what these people are talking about, and I'm still in the chat rooms, I'm like, what they're talking about is hope. Like, that's all I hear. It's hope for people that believe it's going up, right? Yes, exactly, right? And it's pessimism for people that want it to go down, which is another form of hope for them because they make money on the opposite side if the stock goes down.
Right.
And that's one of those situations where I was like, please, if you're going to do whatever, whether you want to be a sports bet side hustler or you want to get into the stock market, Robinhood's at your fingertips, TD Ameritrade, all this whole stuff, just take the time to study. It's the same principles. Like this, the same way if you were trying to start an e-com business, you have to study, you have to learn marketing, you have to learn product, you have to learn, process of how to get things around. And this is the same thing. It may not look like it because you can put $1 in and get $1 out immediately, but this is exactly the same thing. There is no easy buckets with this. And I give a basketball reference or a sports betting. There's no easy buckets.
There's no easy buckets, right? We're contesting everything. But again, it's true, and that's the mindset that I think we have to get people to understand or just be aware of.
Please, yeah.
As talking about football, looking at DraftKings right now, it's a free entry for like 55. It's at $1 million is the pot. It's a free entry, but you got to get like these 10 prop bets or whatever. Like you got to get all of them correct, and they're just the most ludicrous things that you wouldn't think about. Like, putting money on like who. Like how many points is, and this is one thing, like how many points is going to be scored in the fourth quarter. But the other thing is like, what's the last play of the game going to be? A kick, a punt, a run, or a kneel, or like, or something other. It's like, I don't, that's a guess. I'm gambling. Yes. There's no maybe there's someone out there, and if you're listening, guys, hit us up. Hit us
up if you know the statistical probability of that.
Exactly. Like if you can dive that deep and know the statistical probability of a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay at this time at night with the players that are there, it's most likely that there's going to be a 30% chance that it's going to end in a run and not a pass. Like if you can show us that, then great. Like I'd love to see it. But outside of that, that's a guess, which is gambling with your money, right? Yep. It's gambling. And that's what we have to get people to understand is not sustainable over time.
Yeah.
Specialized knowledge will always take you to where you want to be. If you can get knowledge on things, if you can understand, like I said, even if you are going to get into the sports betting world, like we just basically told you, there's a lot of money in it.
Mm-hmm. Whether $10 billion right there.
I think I just saw something on, Earn Your Leisure. Shout out to Earn Your Leisure. If you ever watch that podcast or listen to those guys are doing some great things and teaching people about money. One of the things that they talked about was, is there a way to invest in these sports, betting companies and things like that? Because
I have DraftKings. I own stock in DraftKings.
It's smart, right? Like it's smart because we just talked about like how big this already is and how much bigger it can get if people just understand, like, all right, if I learn this stuff a bit, if I can understand it a bit more, there is opportunity to make money here. Yeah. But we just can't let people off the hook with that lottery mentality, that gambling mentality of like, I heard someone say that this is the place for it, so I'm gonna go here and test this out. That's gambling.
Yep.
100% gambling. It's not going to get you to where you want to be. And that's why I've stayed away from, most forms of gambling, most forms of stock market investing, most forms of sports betting, because until I have a specialized knowledge, I'm not going to put my money there. And that is the mindset I think we really just have to instill in people so they understand. And again, maybe you just want to be a gambler. I get it.
Yeah. Okay. And look,
To each his own.
this is the perspective, right? So whatever you want to do, feel like doing, okay. Like, that's the thing. Cause there is there is a funness to, right? Like whenever, I'm going to casino, like my wife will tell you, I love casinos, but I don't gamble, but I like the energy.
Sure.
Like I like going into a place where it seems like there's always energy. There's always something going. You kind of get lost in another world, right? Because there's no clocks, there's no windows, right?
It's crazy how they set up casinos like that, though, right?
It's no clocks, no windows. You don't know what time it is, and all you hear is ding, 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 ding. Like and it's just always like, oh my God, something can happen, right? I'm one of those people. I like that type of environment, but I also understand that environment, when you walk out, it's nighttime. Yeah. Even when the sun is up.
It's a fake addictive environment because of what we said about dopamine. Right?
Yes.
All that stuff, and again, this is where it gets scary why we have to have this message is because most people are going through some form of anxiety, depression, right? Low self-esteem, low self-worth during this time, right? They're already struggling in these areas. And if you find something that fills, I think Tony Robbins talks about this, if you find something that fills 3 of your 6 basic human needs, it becomes an addiction. So if all of a sudden gambling allows you to feel some form of certainty, allows you to feel some form of uncertainty, gives you some form of love or fulfillment or growth or any of those things, then all of a sudden it becomes an addiction. And yes, that's why people get addicted to going to the casino, because it's firing off all of those, right?
It's a happy place.
It's a happy place for people.
It's a happy place.
Until you go broke and until you lose all your money. Then it's not a happy place. Then you have resentment and you have an addiction that you haven't been able to break. And that will happen with all of these things: stock market, sports betting, any of these types of areas. That's why it's so important that people understand what's happening. And it's not just as simple as, I just bet $20 today on my phone. Like, we make it too casual, and we don't understand the long-term ramifications financially and emotionally, mentally, with all of this stuff. It's important, man. It's really important.
I think that's a good place, man. I think that's an awesome place, I think, to pause, the conversation and next up, let's hear from, everyone else, right? What's your perspective on the whole gambling, right? Sports betting, Robin Hooding, right? You know what I mean? From I don't know what's going on. I heard my friend say, go to Dogcoin. I bought some Dogcoin, right? With my hard-earned money, right? So, I want to hear, we want to hear from you guys, because it is a sensitive topic too, because I promise you there's going to be somebody that says, but I made 3,000%. I made, I was on Clubhouse too. And I heard a guy like, man, I had $5,000 in my account. Next thing you know, the next couple of weeks, I had $80,000 in my account. And, and he was like, and I knew nothing. Yeah. He's like, now I'm learning how to do it. He's like, but I didn't know nothing. I thought I was somebody because I grew my account to $80,000. And he's 80,000 US, and he was in Ghana.
Wow. He became a millionaire.
Right? So think about that, 80,000 in Ghana, right? You know what I mean? And so he was, so, where are you at with it? We want to hear your thoughts on this. Let us know, in the comment section, get on with us, catch us on social media. What are you guys thinking? What's your film? What's your take on the sports betting stuff? I'm interested to hear all these different perspectives on it.
So am I. And that's what we'll wrap up with, guys. So hit us up, let us know, right? What's your take on this sports betting? Is this a bigger deal than you think? Is it not? Should we not be thinking about it too much? Obviously you heard T and I's perspective, right? This could be something that, if not positioned properly in your mind, could really, have some lasting effects. But maybe not. Maybe it's just fun, right? Maybe it's not a big deal.
Maybe it's just a fad.
Maybe it's just a fad, right? Maybe it goes away a bit. maybe the whole system is corrupt. There's a lot of questions here. There's a lot of questions, right? Maybe we get to a place where like we don't know what's true. We don't know, like, yeah, if all of a sudden everyone starts betting on sports, can we actually determine who the real winner of the Super Bowl is? Or is that referee gonna really have a say because he could get paid off? Are we back in those times because that's where the money is?
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions that go into this. I just don't want you guys to be caught, right, with your pants down, so to speak, right? Like, if it is gonna happen, know that you don't have control over this. There is an aspect of this that is just gambling, but we got to figure this out.
Yep.
So we want to hear from you guys. Feel free to reach out, hit us up on Twitter or on Instagram, on Facebook. You guys know where to find us, but also share the podcast.
You can catch us in Clubhouse every now and then.
That's right. We got to figure out this
Clubhouse. Catch us in Clubhouse now.
And we just talked about it last episode, but like we really got to jump in and do some really creative things in there, man. So for all of you guys, listen for us, look out for stuff for Clubhouse, because we will be coming into that dimension very, very soon, very strong here with the podcast. So we're going to sign off for this week, guys. T, you got any final words? Say goodbye to the people.
Hey, be safe out there gambling your money. That's my advice.
That's the
be
advice.
Safe.
Don't go broke. Be safe. Be safe gambling that money, guys. But definitely reach out. Let's have this conversation. We love to chat with you. So until next week, we're signing off for the Perspective Podcast. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Perspective Podcast. We hope this conversation made you think a bit deeper, gain some insight, or even possibly even gain a brand new perspective. If you did enjoy it, do us a favor, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Music, Spotify, Anchor, or anywhere else you stream. Leave a review to help more people experience these conversations and potentially change their perspective as well. And lastly, as always, T and I want you to connect with us. So follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. You can find us just by using our names. And there we get a chance to hear your perspective. Until next time, God bless.